Welcome back, everybody, to the Unemployable podcast. I'm Jeff Dudan. If you were a pharmacist by trade, born in Haiti, raised in Miami, and achieved a doctorate degree, but found yourself buried in $500,000 in student loan debt, if you downsized, right-sized, and worked multiple jobs to eliminate your debt, and with that freedom launched a business in luxury rentals that now includes dozens of high-end properties representing tens of millions of dollars in asset value, and through the company Short-Term Gems helps other people do the same, your name can only be Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh. Welcome, Dr. Rachel.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. What an introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Well, it's you, and it's true. And we're excited to have you on with us here on Unemployable because you were employed and you got yourself unemployed in the best way possible, which is recurring residual income, appreciating assets, just textbook right down the list of how to build wealth over time and how to make it happen. So my opening question for you is real estate investing for everyone?
My answer to you is yes. I am so bullish on real estate. Now, there are a variety of ways that we can get into the game, whether it's investing passively through someone else that's investing on your behalf or aggressively. I believe more in the aggressive investing side of things where I'm hands-on. I will say, though, for our particular strategy, it has more of a hospitality feel to it. Okay. That part may not be for everyone if you do not have that bedside manner and that hospitable spirit, unless you're able to outsource it and get a partner or an operations person on your team to come in alongside you and help you support that part of the business.
What do you mean by hospitality?
Yeah, so hospitality means the extra special touches, in my honest opinion. So the reason, Jeff, our properties are considered luxury properties is not necessarily because they're multi-million-dollar properties each, right? Some of them are, they've appraised for that much, but we went in purchasing properties for $300,000, $400,000, $600,000. However, when we add that hospitality tag on it, we're able to charge for that asset on a nightly rate much differently than a long-term rental. Say someone who's staying in a home, they're creating a home for themselves for the next few years. And so when it comes to luxury, what I love about it is modern luxury is not just, your grandmother's luxury. I'm going to age myself. Lifestyle of the rich and famous with the golden toilets, the golden door. It's none of that. None of that. No one cares about that. Our current, I would say contemporaries, when it comes to luxury, they're looking for convenience, they're looking for connection, and they're looking for a way to really recreate and get back to the basics, in my opinion. And this is what I've seen with our guests. So I can expound on that a little bit more.
I would love to, because when I think about luxury rental, first of all, I think short term. I think event-based, like a wedding or a trip or graduation trip or something like that. I think location, although I did hear on listening to you on some podcasts that not all of your properties are beachfront or mountains or things like that. You have properties that are in, away from what you would consider to be destinations.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So how do you take a property and then put that special luxury touch on it? So I was in YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and I was the education chair and I was the chapter chair, and so I was responsible at times for either putting on events or approving events. And sometimes I got to go and visit the sites to make sure that they were okay, which is good. Those are free trips, but we would always touch the five senses. So when we we would go maybe to the one hotel in Miami, and they have, when you walk into the one hotel, first of all, you see that all of the decorations look like they're high-end, but maybe recycled on the walls, and then there's a smell when you walk in that you will read about, and it is their unique smell that they
Yes.
had specifically crafted for them. You won't find it anywhere else in the world. It's kind of clean. It's a little bit
Hmm.
ocean.
Yeah.
And then you get into the room and there's something that you're going to taste. And and then there's a book that has an interesting texture on it on the coffee table. So,
Yes.
every little detail is a different experience slightly from the norm, and it elevates it. Are
Mm.
those the types of things that you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very keen on the five senses as well. And prior to the guests, prospective guests booking the property, they're using their sense of sight, right? They're looking at the
Mm,
listing, they're identifying, can their family really resonate with this space? Do they see themselves in the space? And so just the photos alone make a huge impact. Then we go into the guest reviews. How are we communicating back to the guests as they are leaving reviews? So I'm a big proponent for leaving public reviews because social proof is everything. You and I, we purchase everything based off of the Amazon review or the Google review, so I truly
100%.
believe, yeah, 100%. So communication is a huge part of that luxury field as well. And another thing that I found that was really interesting, there's a client of mine that has a property in Louisiana. It's like a 1930s home. It's a little dinky. It's got its own little personality, right? And so we made it as cute as possible. And within that property, we have for each guest an extra special gumbo recipe with the stock and the dry goods that can be placed inside of the Instapot or the little crock pot. And all of a sudden, all sins are forgiven with that
Right.
particular part. If something goes wrong. So that's what I mean by luxury. It's the extra special touches, and it doesn't necessarily have to break the bank, which I think is what's so special about hospitality. We started off talking about what is hospitality. Those are the small bits and pieces when it comes to hospitality.
Your background would not indicate that you would be doing what you're doing right now. You were obviously a good student. I know pharmacy school is very difficult to get into, and then
Yeah.
getting a doctorate degree. I don't know what your doctorate was in, but
It's in pharmacy as
in
well. Yeah.
pharmacy.
Doctor of
Okay,
pharmacy. Yes.
so there you
Yeah.
go. So now you're tripling down on the education.
Yeah.
You're having success. You're having to go through boards, and you're really a high achiever.
Yeah.
And then you get into that career. What was it like? Were you employed? Were you acting as a pharmacy? Like, what was your life like when you got out of school?
Yeah. So when I got out of school back in 2007 ish, I went ahead and applied and got into a residency. I worked at the VA in West
Okay.
Palm, so the West Palm Beach VA. Got amazing training there. I think my salary there was like $24,000 a year, typical residence salary. And when I got my big girl job a couple of years later, that very first engagement was a $92,000 annual salary. And Jeff, I thought I had it made. I had never seen so much money in my life. I was running heart failure clinics, diabetes clinics, running informatics implementations throughout a few hospitals. It was wonderful, honestly, to start. And then we got not only the student loan bill, my husband and I, we also got a big tax bill because quickly after we got the student loan bill, we're like, okay, we got to figure this out. And we got on the Dave Ramsey train. I will say we got on
Right.
the Kool-Aid was Kool-Aiding. Okay.
Yeah.
No offense, Dave Ramsey, but sir, I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid because man, we started to pick up shifts everywhere. We're working at 1.5 jobs between the two of us, my husband and I. It was complete madness going from hospital to hospital. He is a psychotherapist, so he would work in the psych ward. He would work in private practice clinics. And we were just trying to figure out how to bring these student loans down because our mortgage was $1,500 back then per month. Our student loans were $5,000. And
Hmm.
so it was quite a disaster to say the least. And so we sold everything but the kids. Again, Dave Ramsey sold everything but the kids just to show you how indoctrinated I was. But we were burning the candle at both ends and we had burnt ourselves down to a crisp. And the biggest wake up call, to be honest with you, was one day we sat at our kitchen table, we got a tax bill that was $42,000. After all of that hard work, we're like, we're doing all the right things. And so $42,000 tax bill. And we're like, okay, is this a scam? Like is this a scam? What is happening right now? And so we started to hear sound bites around how real estate helps with taxes. And
Right.
that was our introduction into the real estate world, and found a little podcast called Bigger Pockets, started listening there, and slowly took off my Dave Ramsey hat and put on my Bigger Pockets hat. And so this was born out of burnout, really getting into real estate, looking for a way to offset my taxes and doubling down on that, not wanting to see another tax bill that is so high after having worked so hard just to give all of that money to the student loans. Now we had to work hard to give all that money to Uncle Sam. And so we were feeling really defeated there. But real estate was an absolute game changer for us.
Look, I'm a big proponent, different tools for different seasons of life.
Yes.
And, Dave Ramsey's background is yours. He got in trouble.
Yeah.
And he's, and now he makes $500 million a year. He's probably, he has now the big tax bill, but
Yeah.
he built a program that basically said, you might not be able to save your way to prosperity, but you can save your way to stability and to safety. Yeah. So you cut your expenses, you increased your traditional W-2 income, maybe some of it was 1099 income if you're picking up jobber type shifts and things like that. It's probably where you got the tax bill from, exactly. Which is the 1099 stuff, right? Because they didn't withhold the taxes, and I'm not going to ask, and the IRS never listens anyway to us. But it's I hope they don't. But if so you saved your way to safety. You worked your way to stability, but then you invested your way to prosperity.
Yes. 100%. 100%. And you're absolutely right about the different tools, because would I recommend Dave Ramsey for everyone? No, absolutely not. Especially my clients who are women in medicine, high income earners who, yes, there is a huge a huge student loan bill there. However, there is a shortcut. There is a better way to create a life that is sustainable, create a life that serves you so that you can practice medicine on your own terms. You do not have to go the route that I went. At the time, I really thought I had no other options. He was the only one with a loud enough megaphone speaking to my exact pain points. So that's where I went. And so, I mean, hats off to Dave Ramsey still, but I would not recommend it today to any of my colleagues. Right.
There's a time and a place. Yeah. And if you've got high interest credit card debt, you've got some delinquencies, most people can find time or can find room in their budget to, the compound interest works both ways.
It does.
So it works positively, but also too, it works against you if you have interest. Because it's just compounding on top and compounding on top. And so it's, and that's where time comes into it, and dealing with things smart and dealing with things today, and just doing the math and doing the arbitrage between rates and things like that. I remember early in my career, I mean, I had good credit. I was a business owner, but I was still borrowing from Peter to pay Paul in terms of building the business. And I had about 6 credit cards, and those people would give me 0% interest, credit card advances up to $25,000 and $30,000. Yeah. And you would pay 3 points up front or something like that, or 2.5 or 2 points. Sometimes it was 1 point. And then it would be 0 interest for 18 months. So I would get 0 interest money, $100,000 from 4 different cards. But then I would make sure that when those came due, that I could either pay them off, because they went to like 29%, and do it. But like that was one of my answers. But the other answer for me was real estate. Yeah. So I bought my first house as a college student, owner financed, no money down. 61.5 I paid for it. It was on top of a mountain in Boone, North Carolina, And I
Amazing.
held that house for probably 25 years. It was rented the entire time. I refinanced it several times when I needed money and ultimately sold it. But for me, real estate, everywhere our business moved through Florida, through the Carolinas, I would buy a building. And then when we would molt our shell, right, and need to move to a bigger building, I would just
Mm-hmm.
rent that building and keep it. And then somehow the bank would loan me for the new one. And, so over time, in probably the least amount of time in my life, invest like literally a few, time to go look at a building, time to deal with the contract, a couple hours to put together your financials, your tax returns and stuff like that. You go
Yeah.
to a closing and maybe you got 10 or 12 hours in the whole deal. It's
Yeah.
probably the most money it's definitely the most money per hour I've ever made over 30. What is it? I bought my first property in 1990. So where are we here? 30, 35 years of owning real
Yeah.
estate. And I will tell you, so my question for you and what I'm fascinated about is how did you manage the transition between who you were
Yeah.
and your asset base, which was really a debt base, and
Mm-hmm.
then that time where you started to invest in properties? Because we have at Homefront Brands today 250 business owners,
Nice.
and many of which own property, or we have one business that needs warehousing, and a
Mm-hmm.
handful of the people own their warehouse
I love it.
that they operate out of,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem to do better. I mean, because they can set the rent rate and they're paying off their own property. And so, what advice can you give people, or maybe just share your experience about going from someone who, how can I buy a property? I don't have $500,000 cash to put down on a piece of property. Like, how can I do it? What would be some strategies for me to get started? And where can I go to get resources to learn how to do it?
So many thoughts. Oh my gosh. And thank you for sharing your story as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely amazing. So many thoughts there, because the myth is that we would need to come out of pocket 100% to purchase a property. And already you have shared your story. You had owner financing, meaning the owner was essentially your lender, they were the bank, and you
Mm-hmm.
pay them month after month after month. So already you're coming out of pocket little to nothing in those particular scenarios, which is amazing. So, first and foremost, I want to bust the myth that you need 100%. Dave Ramsey, eat your heart out. You need 100% to purchase a property cash. You don't. Second of all, I want to bust a myth that you need 20%. There are funding options out there that could equate to anywhere from 0% down to 10% down. And that's exciting. So imagine you now control an asset that's worth $500,000, and all you did was you put $50,000 down,
Right.
$100,000 down. That is just so much more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely love that. I love busting that initial myth, because oftentimes my busy, burnt out medical professionals, if you're listening, you're here in tech, you're in any industry, you think to yourself, well, I'm not an investor, I'm just an XYZ. Well, I mean, can you imagine that? I'm just a doctor. I'm just someone in tech. I'm just an engineer. I'm just, someone who has a business. I'm not an investor. So the myth that I want to bust is that you do not have the skill set to understand and analyze deals.
Mm-hmm.
And in my background, you're literally saving lives. You're making critical decisions based off of, a variety of crazy looking labs that yesterday they were doing fine. All of a sudden, the numbers are all over the place. Now that those are the same critical thinking skills that are needed to invest in real estate. So the way you invest in real estate is you pile up your cash for your down payment, whether it's a 5% down, a 10% down, 20% down if you want to be a little bit more aggressive. And from there, you analyze your markets. You identify the markets where you're going to get the best ROI, the best bang for your buck. And so, one number that I like to review as well, what is the potential of revenue that's coming in compared to the overall purchase price? So, that's a high level barometer. However, if we're really thinking about cash on cash, though, say I'm purchasing a property for $500,000 and I'm putting, 20% down. So $100,000. And all of a sudden, I'm so obsessed with taxes, with the new tax bill that was recently approved, I can get anywhere around 30 to 50K off of my taxes, offsetting my taxes. So that initial investment is net $70,000 or
Right.
$60,000 or even $50,000, right? So that $50,000 initial investment, now I have control of a $500,000 asset. I mean, I don't see any other strategy out there personally. And guys, prove me wrong in the comments. Feel free to drop a message. I don't see any other strategy out there that's going to give us such an outsized return. That is an asset, although on paper we can depreciate quite a bit of that asset. But in the real world, for the most part, we can't make any income claims or guarantees. But in the real world, these are appreciable assets. It's bringing in money. And in the long term, like you say, you borrowed against it. Okay, it's seller financing. You borrowed against it, then you borrowed against it. I just absolutely love real estate for that specific reason. And with those who are warehouse owners, when you own the asset that you typically would rent, there's major benefits there as well. Not just, you're getting the debt pay down. And if you have multiple spaces, you're getting someone else to help with the debt pay down as well. There's tax benefits associated with it. You're building generational wealth. I'm a believer in building generational wealth as well. So it is a win-win situation. And I honestly felt like I went around the world and back and I did not answer your question as clearly as possible, but I just get really excited about real estate.
Well, I didn't ask it clearly, and candidly, I don't even remember what it is. But I couldn't agree more because we like to say at Homefront Brands that businesses are a high-class asset because you take advantage of the tax code.
Yes.
It's a hedge against inflation. Prices go up, your prices go up. So it is, and real estate are a hedge against inflation, and they're a high-class asset. So now somebody fact-check me on this. This is an old statistic, but I read it in some real estate course somewhere, that over time, real estate on average will appreciate by 7%, like over 100 years. Okay, 7% a year over 100 years. But we just saw a time where, I had properties that doubled in 3 years. So you're going to, it's like with any long-term portfolio, if you miss that 10% or 20% run, then you don't participate in the average upside of it. So really, time in the seat, time in the ownership and all of that. So now let's say you bought a property for $1 million and it's going up by $70,000 and then, $70.7, thousand dollars the next year if it's going up on average. But then somebody's renting that from you. You're paying it down. Then you did a cost segregation study where you did accelerated depreciation on on painting, the carpet and the things that are going to accelerate faster than the average. I don't know if you amortize a building over 25 years or 20 years or whatever, 27 and a half years.
27 and a half,
There you go. So now you've got a tax benefit this year. You're going to have to recapture it later. But, 27 and a half years from now, I might not be here. That'll be somebody else's problem, right? So I want the tax benefit today.
Yes.
They can pin it on my tombstone later, but I'm not going to care. So when I have to recapture that depreciation.
I would 1031 exchange it. I've got a game plan for that too.
Oh, do you?
1031. Yeah, I think so. I would sell it, then 1031 exchange it into the next property. The bigger, the better. I'm mapping out a roadmap for that. I do not want recapture. So as long as you keep it for long enough.
Yeah. I mean, you and that's the game is right to keep avoiding the recapture of the tax and then the money that you're saving, you're investing in the S&P and that's growing by 9% a year, whatever it is. So it's all about, doing the math and then real estate. Now, there are times and there are markets where you can get hurt in real estate. And I've seen people get hurt in real estate. I've seen people lose $100 million in real estate in a crash in Florida, right? Because they really were out over the tips of their skis and there was a big crash and then they weren't able to do it. And, so I think, you have to be careful and you have to know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, any wealthy family, any family office, any retirement fund, they all have exposure to real estate. And it's for good reason because
Yeah.
They're not making any more of it.
That's right.
And we're going to have 150 million more people in this country over the next 25 years. And these people are going to need places to live.
Yeah.
We're going to need places to be educated, places to
Yeah.
go to the doctor, places to shop. And all of the infrastructure is, so at the end of the day, real estate might temporarily take a hit,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's one of the most secure things that you can be in. So, and I think I like your example of how to get in it. And if you're, one of the things that I took advantage of early in my career was an SBA loan. That's a real
Okay.
estate loan that is backed by the government. Now, if you're complicated, meaning you have a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
it's hard to get an SBA loan because they want everything. I mean, so, if I have 41 companies, they would want 3 years of tax returns on 41 companies, and then they're going to ask questions, and it's just really not a good fit. But if you don't have a lot, and if you're not complicated, an SBA loan for a business or a piece of real estate can oftentimes be an incredible opportunity. Put 10% down. You get a reasonable interest rate. It's fixed typically, as opposed to a variable rate that's going to put pressure on you down the road. What's your view of SBA loans? Have you used those as a vehicle? And what would you advise that that's something that people investigate early in their real estate investing career?
My view so far in my light research of SBA loans has not been that it is more advantageous than a mortgage, because mortgages traditionally, and what I've seen so far, even in today's economy, are much cheaper than the SBA loan, whether it's the interest rate or the amount of down payment. And I'm strictly speaking, though, about residential real estate.
Right. Yes.
Residential real estate. So it's a totally different ball game for my colleagues and my clients who are buying medical offices. That's a
Right.
whole different ball game. So residential real estate, I would say up until today, as we're speaking, right? The times have changed. Lending products have changed. For residential real estate, your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, your mortgage entities, they tend to provide you the cheapest loans with the longest terms. So I like those. I like to keep more of my cash. Give
Sure.
me a 30-year all day. I'll take a 30-year mortgage all day, every day. But I'm at, a certain, again, different products for different people. I'm at a certain timeline, I'm early 40s, I'll say that. However, check me out when I'm in my 70s. I may have a different story to tell, but for now, I'll take a 0% down mortgage, a 5% down if I can get my hands on one of those, a 10% down. Those are very common for the vacation rentals or short-term rentals. And again, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, those government-backed loans are going to be your cheapest and your your longest loans that you could leverage. So I'm all about that for residential real estate. I have yet to explore SBA loans personally, so I can't speak to that. But I did want to double click on something you mentioned a little bit earlier, Jeff, around the risk and those who have lost money in real estate. So most of us in my community, we're looking at purchasing one or two properties at a time
Right.
in our portfolio. And what I would say to mitigate risk, because we're in a very litigious world, healthcare, we're always getting sued, right? So we're very risk averse. I will say that. A few things that we have in place that hedge against our risk is the entity setup for our businesses. So having the right expert that you're working with for your business entity setup, and I can't speak to any of that. My legal people would kill me if I mention any recommendations around whether it's S corp, C corp, any of that LLC. However that's set up, having that right structure matters. And I believe with the new bill that's here now, it's going to matter even more because there are certain um, benefits depending on the structure. So having the right structure, the right entity setup, number one. Number two, insurance, having the right insurance policies and making sure that you're covered, whether it's even for something like bed bug coverage. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's expensive and it's such a nuisance, right? I've encountered it firsthand coming from a cabin and it's spread out throughout our home. It was so expensive to mitigate. So things like that could really, take a good chunk of your revenue for the month and cause cancellations in your bookings. We want to mitigate against those types of things. So whether it's bed bugs or a loss of income, so that type of insurance if you have a business that's set up. And The third thing, I think, having a nice bank of cash. Cash mitigates all risks, right?
Right.
So if I have 3 to 6 months of expenses in a bank, that is how we're able to mitigate risk with one or two properties. I
Sure.
don't know, Jeff, what do you think about those risk mitigation tools there?
Oh, definitely. Proper insurance is cheap. Making sure that you don't run out of cash. Cash is like oxygen. You don't know how bad you need it until you don't have any.
Yeah.
So making sure that you have the right amount of cash, forecast your vacancies or
Yeah.
any non-covered perils that you could, and make sure that you have access to that cash right away. So you're not forced
Yeah.
into something that you don't want to do, and you don't find yourself under leverage. I think that's great. I'd like to ask you about your education platform. You have an education platform,
I sure do.
and it is for healthcare professionals. So
Yes.
why do you target healthcare professionals who, by the way, I have been around many, and they're not all great business owners?
No.
And two, how do you help these people?
Yeah, we're known to be bad with business, bad with money. And so
Well, you're saving lives.
we're
So,
saving lives.
like,
Yes.
I get it.
And I want to dispel that myth. Of course, we can be great with money. Of course, we can be great with business if we're provided the right tools. And so that is what the platform is about: is to demystify what comes with investing. I hear a lot, like I said in the very beginning, it's like, oh, I'm just a doctor. Can I really invest? And so the answer is yes. If you have the desire to invest, you most certainly can invest. And my goal is to provide a step-by-step roadmap for Rachel circa 2014, Rachel circa 2008. My platform is targeting women with two boys that are doctors of pharmacy. Like, that is how granular it became. So personal for me when I couldn't use the bathroom when I needed to because I was working. I was burnt out working my fingers to bone. We were not given lunch breaks back then. And so I was working 14-hour shifts and would leave and then go and work another set of hours. And so I wanted to create a program for her. I wanted to create a program that understood the uniqueness of her plight, of her specific situation. The way that I invest in real estate is not going to resonate with the way that my fellow entrepreneurs, right, are investing in real estate back then. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, it's a whole different ballgame. But when I was coming up, when I was starting out, no, I could not drive for dollars. I was told you can, but no, I couldn't. I could not drive for dollars. I could not go, door knocking, putting out bandit sign. No, no, no. That was not for me, because my best and highest use at that time was punching that clock, getting my money out, my cash flow, so that I could put a down payment on a property.
Right.
Right. So you're not, my clients, you're not an 18-year-old, like my 18-year-old brother, back then he could go and drive for dollars. He could go door knocking, doing the bandit sign. So I wanted, again, to create something different, something that would be unique to exactly our actual lives, not a general education platform for everyone else. We have that. We have plenty of wonderful programs out there. So it resonates again with those who are in the trenches, those who are time starved, those who have the golden handcuffs, right? We're making a lot of money. So that's a distraction too. It's like, I'm like, okay, focus back. Remember what your why is, because a few months down the road, we encountered layoffs in our world, which is unheard of, right? But that's the reality. And so I see the institutions. I wrote an article earlier this week. They had 20,000 layoffs in healthcare, several major hospitals, after reporting millions and millions in surplus. And so if we're not paying attention to how they're automating and leveraging AI and, optimizing in order to, reduce the workforce, I mean, we must be asleep. And so that's really what was at the forefront of my mind when I created my platform. I wanted to focus on burnt out medical professionals like myself, because I have the roadmap. I have an actual roadmap. Here's all you need to do. We don't need to do all of these other things. If you do these 4 things, I have 4 pillars. If you're ever able to do these 4 things, you're going to, like, success is inevitable.
Can you share those? Are you open to
Absolutely.
sharing those just quickly, those 4 pillars?
Yeah. So find, fund, fill, furnish, and fill up. Those are the 4. Find,
Okay.
fund, furnish, and fill up. So if we can find you the right property that resonates with you, and I conduct an inventory of sorts, kind of like a survey quiz to identify where those markets are that are going to resonate with you. Fund. We got to find some money. Can we
Yeah.
find? So we go through an exercise called the hidden money matrix,
Mm.
right?
That's a
Furnish.
tool. That's a tool.
Yep, it's a tool inside of my program. So we're going to squeeze as much money as we can out of everywhere that we possibly can. And what's great about this, I've been sharing this since 2021. There has been some really creative ways that I've seen our members come up with that initial down payment, whether it's borrowing against something or um, leveraging. Even I learned about leveraging insurance, right? Their
Right.
whole life insurance. It's like, oh, Dave Ramsey, whole life, right? He keeps coming back up. But leveraging, different insurance products, pledge assets against your stock. So it's really interesting. So we could work some overtime, pile up some cash, or tap into what we may already have. And then furnishing is really, really important because we want to provide, like you shared a little bit earlier, those high end finishes on a budget. So this is not a home we're necessarily living in. And so we work with some amazing wholesale furnishing companies. We've got wholesale pricing on Pottery Barn, West Elm, Williams Sonoma, those types of
Right.
brands, so that you have that high quality contractor grade. We want contractor grade furnishings that can take a beating, that will stand the test of time.
Right.
And then we fill up our calendars, we fill up our listings with our best, highest quality guests that we want to serve. So those are the 4 pillars. Once you've done that,
So is every strategy within, and the name of the platform or the name of your website is Short Term Gems. Is that the
Yes.
name of your education business as well, or what? How are you branded in the education space?
Yeah, Short Term Gems is my brand in the education space. And the course, the main 1 year course, is called Luxury Rental Academy. And so that essentially has me as the top coach. You have the course content, but I bring on additional coaches as well, those who help us find. I've got market analysis coaches in there. Fund. I've got lender coaches in there that share with us the latest and greatest of the products.
Okay.
Furnish, design coaches to give us some options. And then fill up. We've got the dynamic pricing coach that looks at your calendar, looks at the pricing, and works with you to adjust, as well as an operations coach to talk about, okay, what's going on with the cleaners. And just, I come around our members with so much support. And from the funding, the finance angle, we do have a couple of CPAs as well that come in to provide some insights on how to create more bandwidth so that we can fund that next deal as well. So the CPAs are part of the funding pillar.
All right. So if I'm not a medical professional, am I allowed in?
As long as the vibes check out, sir.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
Well,
absolutely.
how am I doing?
Absolutely.
Am I doing
You're
okay?
doing great. You're doing great. And we've attracted quite a few tech brethren and other folks who are in other industries as well, as long as they resonate with the message and it makes sense to them. A big portion of it is, I want you to save on taxes and I want you to leverage this particular strategy. So the vast majority of our rental strategy, I would say 80% of it, is centered around the short-term rentals so that we can trigger that short-term rental loophole.
Yeah.
And we do some mid-term rental as well, which is another powerful strategy. We do not lean into long-term rentals because my docs, they would not qualify for the best tax benefits with long-term rentals, which would equate to rep status, real estate professional status, you would need to not work outside of the home to qualify for that. So we're like, okay, forget that. Let's focus on what we can qualify for without necessarily having to quit our jobs. Because I don't recommend you quit. I think we need good people in healthcare, right?
Right.
However, if we can create a little bit of a breathing room so that we can practice medicine on our own terms, that changes everything. I got to tell you, Jeff, when I walked into the workplace and I had 2 rentals under my belt, I had a certain swagger about me, okay? I could breathe a little. It's like no
Right.
one can talk to me any kind of way. It changes things.
Right. And did you ever flip houses?
No.
Just
It's just not in my wheelhouse. I recommend it if you have access to a good construction crew,
right.
great contractors. Again, my best and highest use was for me to punch that clock at the W-2 and not boss around contractors that were not showing up. I got to tell you,
Yeah.
and so that's why I leaned into short-term rentals, properties that needed a little bit of lipstick. Always needed lipstick, I will tell you. So we didn't flip. We would buy slight renovation and hold for short-term rentals.
Yeah. Do you? I'm interested. Do you still have your W-2 job, or have you left it completely?
2023, I left it completely.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So that was a huge mindset shift for me, honestly. Like I had to ask myself before leaving, like, well, who am I? Who like my coming from an immigrant background, I was like the pedestal child. Was like, oh, she got the doctorate. And for me to leave completely was just like I just got smacked upside the head. But it was at that moment my husband had left a year a year and a half prior after a few rentals that had outperformed his W-2 income. He was like, oh, I'm out of here. He was really burnt out. He was dealing with a lot of traumatic cases. And so that was starting to impact his mental health. And so he left completely and he started to manage the properties. And then when I would kind of complain about how stressed I was, he's like, why are you working still? Why don't you come home? And so it was, I probably could have, Jeff. I honestly could have. However, I had some limiting beliefs. So scarcity mindset, little
Mm,
girl from Haiti, money trauma, not growing up. My parents did everything that they possibly could, but I always had that scarcity. So
right.
until I hit certain milestone, it was a financial milestone, then I'll quit. I would hit the milestone. And then the puck kept moving. Oh
Right.
no, it was this milestone. Oh no, the kids haven't gone to college. It was this milestone. Oh no. And after a while, and I tell my members, do not rage quit. Whatever you do, do not rage quit because that W-2, that work history, I mean, it's so much easier
Right.
to get access to capital if you can leverage that work history. However, I got a couple emails about some new initiative that was going down that I totally didn't agree with. And then the new initiative, you're not getting paid more for it. You have to do, I just rage quit, Jeff.
Did
Contrary,
you?
like do what I say. I sure did. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I really didn't need this. I don't know. I'm not going to continue to, to operate in this space. It just no longer aligns with my core beliefs, with what I'm wanting for my life. It no longer aligns with my non-negotiables. And I did, and I was fine because I continue to invest. So you can still invest after leaving your W-2. There are other options out there. There's bank statement loans. There are other options out there. So you don't need to hold on to, although I say don't rage quit because I do believe we need good people in medicine still. But there is
Right.
still life after medicine.
What was your daily discipline when you were working your W-2 job to make sure that your real estate vision was being accomplished? Was it getting up early, working the internet, looking at listings, making some phone calls, doing some emails, and then maybe lunch, and then maybe after, or was it a weekend thing for you? Because our business owners are generally pretty deep into their businesses. Many have families just like you, and they have life that they want to live. But from my experience, the little bit of extra effort to do the real estate was so worth it over time that it's almost immeasurable. The return's almost been infinite on my time. So what would you share with people about like how you make the space in your schedule to make it happen?
That's a great question. If I could just kind of parachute back into that time, I remember having an allotted 3 hours on Thursday mornings, and I call that my tiger time. That was my non-negotiable time. And in order to coax me to stay on top of it, I would have different mantras, different uh, affirmations around that specific time. You know, you're doing this because you're envisioning what it is that you're building. Imagine a life where. And so having the mantras around that tiger time, just giving myself a little bit of a pep talk there, really made the difference for those first couple of investments. And then when I wanted to delve in a little bit more, that's when I joined an accountability group. I joined a coaching program myself. I
Hmm.
had a coach. She specialized honestly in storage facilities. However, what drew me to her, she was an Atlantean, so she's a fellow Atlantean. She's local, but her negotiation tactics and skills to getting creative finance deals was really intriguing to me, and just her overall expertise and knowledge with real estate was amazing to me. However, I will tell you what was great about that environment was I actually met my current real estate bestie in there. And she and I, we would just chop it up. How are the deals looking today? You know, and so having that accountability is next level. And
Right.
so what I found out about me, Jeff, is whenever I'm looking to make big moves in my life, whether it's I was on a health journey, I lost 30 pounds, which is amazing. So whether it's a health journey or a shift, when I decide, you know what, this is my goal, I I evaluate what are the sacrifices for that goal, and I just put it on paper plain. Is it worth it for me to experience those sacrifices? Is the answer yes? It is yes. And from there, I need a partner. I need either an accountability partner
Hmm.
or a coach or a mentor or someone that is going to be there week after week after week after week, as we walk this journey along together. And that's for me, that has compressed that momentum curve, if you will, because my W 2 colleagues, there's no way I would be able to have an open conversation with what it was that I was doing at the time. There was kind of a hazing type of workplace. It was like no one wants anyone else to be doing better than them kind of vibe, almost again a scarcity vibe there. And it comes from stress, it comes from trauma. And so I just didn't need any of that in my life. So I would say my routine is just carving out that dedicated, I called it tiger time, is where I would go in there and evaluate a certain number of deals that I had set for myself as a goal for that 90 days. 90 days, I need to evaluate 200 deals, and make sure that they meet my parameters, my buy box. And within
Mm.
those 200, I need to make XYZ number of offers. So a big pillar is the offers. How many offers am I making?
Right.
And then if I find that I'm faltering or I need the goal to expand a bit more, that's when I decided, I say I need a community. I need to partner with someone. I need a BFF, a real estate bestie. I need a friend.
So we make our money when we buy the property.
Yes.
When you open your email and you see that somebody is accepting an offer that you made, is it a surprise?
Accepting an offer.
Yeah, you're
Gotcha.
making a bunch of
Yeah.
offers. They're probably below market.
Yeah.
And I know on the Homevestors model, I think 19 out of 20 are going to be turned down. So
Yeah.
so you're making offers, they work for you, they're in your buy box,
Yeah.
they're gonna hit your ROI and they're gonna cash flow, and you
Yeah.
know exactly how to make it work. You know what you can rent it for. You know how to get a few points by touching all the five senses and creating a luxury look and feel. So you've got it. And but still, when you open it up and somebody says, yes, I'd love to do this, is it usually a
Yeah.
surprise, or like, do you know the ones that you're going to get?
That's a good question. I would say 50-50.
Yeah.
50-50, yeah. And I don't always make below asking price offers,
Okay.
primarily because I certain properties I know what I have,
Right.
and for whatever reason they don't know what they have.
Yeah.
Case in point, I was in a market where I'm so familiar with this market. Unfortunately, the patriarch had passed away. The dad has passed away.
Mm.
The elder son was from out of state. The property was just sitting there. The roof needed to be replaced. He just wanted that headache out of his life.
Right.
Everyone else up until that point, I didn't know this, had made offer below asking price. I asked for asking price because that property was worth $400,000 in my eyes, and they were asking $290,000 for it. The realtor didn't know what was
Pay
going
it.
on.
Pay it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
pay
I
it.
said, I'll take it for $290, no concessions. They said,
Yeah.
well, you're number 7. They accepted the offer. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
please. Yes.
Right.
And so there's a power that comes from investing in a market that you're really familiar with. You don't always have to, but you get an edge. I don't know if we can quantify that edge, but you get an edge when you're making offers in a market that you're very familiar with,
Yeah.
especially when everyone else is from out of state. He was using his realtor from South Carolina to communicate with another realtor here that had no idea. So that was phenomenal.
One of the real estate programs that I purchased on late night TV and got through 18% of it. But the first thing was, and I'm glad it was the first thing because that was where I started reading. But it was like, you should buy properties that are on your normal travel path because you can run your eyes on them. They're not out of your way. So how do you think in the luxury short-term rental market, how do you think about geography? How important is it that you can get your hands on things, or is it just you go to where the deals are?
That's a great question. And for me, that's similar to the driving for dollars, right? You're buying the properties within your path. However, what if your path is not an ideal market based off of what the data tells us?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, with access to AI and the tools, we have access to so much data. And so I'm willing to expand my horizons. Yes, I do like some properties in my own backyard, especially if you're starting out. However, it's okay to expand your horizons if the numbers make sense in a whole other market. So case in point, I'm in Atlanta. I got a nice little portfolio here to start south of Atlanta. I'm outside of Atlanta, if I'm being fully transparent. But then my next market based off of the data was in the Poconos. You couldn't get further than that, in my opinion, right? So yeah, the next batch was in the Poconos, and that was from me running the information. I was finding properties that were in the $270,000 range, at $350,000 range, and they were big, beautiful properties that needed some work, needed some TLC, right? However, I could see my what is it? I could just template it. I could see my template on that property to make it something special, to create a very unique experience where the guests could connect with one another, multi-generational, multi-families. They can connect with one another. They could connect with nature because there were some really great outdoor spaces as well. So for me, it comes down to knowing the guests that I want to serve first. Who is that ideal guest?
Sure.
So a minute ago, we were talking about why do you focus on people in healthcare, women in healthcare? No, just understanding their pain point, right? I have a very deep personal understanding of their pain point. And then I have a very deep personal understanding of the pain point of that multi-generational family traveling with kids and pets, and the grandparents who have mobility issues, or that special needs child who has mobility issues as well. And how do we curate a stay for that particular family? And so my very first Airbnb short-term rental was a 4-bedroom property or so. There was a 5-bedroom property. There was 11 of us staying at this one space, Jeff. And I was looking around. I was like, okay, they have dishes. Okay, I know where I can buy dishes. Wow, they have beds. I know where I can buy beds. Oh, wow, they have forks. They have 2 forks, and there's 11 of us. Okay, I know where I can find 11 plus forks. And that started to plant the seed for me, because at that point I was evaluating all sorts of real estate investing strategies. But that started to plant the seed for me as, you know what, I think I can do this. You know what, I think I can do this even better. Especially looking at the nightly rate we were paying for the insufficient forks and the sink. I was like, I think I can do this even better. And that was the seed that was planted for me. Because if I'm traveling with my husband, his siblings, their spouses, their kiddos, my sister, her spouse, her kiddos, my parents, his parents, and so on and so forth, how do we curate this stay? So I start I begin with the guest in mind. I begin with my guest avatar in mind. And then that informs me. I know I went around the world, I'm coming back. That informs me the type of properties that would make sense. So that condo high rise, you send it my way to evaluate in my market analysis workflow. I'm just going to send it to my boy Jasper because that's his avatar, singles, living the life in the city. No, my avatar are multi-generational, multi-families traveling with kids and pets. And it's selfish because the reason being is in that dynamic, we've got 4 or 5 W-2 workers that are able and willing to split that bill. And
Right.
so $1,000, per family unit for the week is much better than staying in a hotel.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've leaned into that guest avatar. So I start with that guest and then I find properties that will cater to that guest, irregardless if it's in a suburban area for a family who is displaced from their home due to
Yeah.
some kind of disaster, or a beachfront area or a lakefront area
Right.
or an area by the ski lift. So that is our avatar. That is who we serve. And yeah, we just keep leaning into that specific avatar, and that has served us well.
Yep. Know your customer, know your customer, know your customer. And
Period.
You will be successful.
Yep.
One of your properties was on Netflix. Were you able to get yourself
Yes.
on there as well?
Yes.
You
yes,
were?
That was, yeah. That's
Yourself. You're on Netflix.
I am on Netflix. My husband is on Netflix. You'll watch his Wheel and Deal.
Yeah?
It's called Buy My House. Yeah, episode 4. It is.
Episode 4. Okay.
Yes.
Is it live right now? Is it hot?
It is.
Okay.
It should still be. Yeah. It went live, I want to say September of 23-ish.
Okay.
So it should still be on there. Yes, actually it is. One of my clients, Dr. Glad, she goes, I watched you last night on Netflix. Yeah. So that's Rachel before I had this type of press training. So I was a nervous wreck. So have a look and you tell me what you think. It was hilarious.
What was the experience like for you?
It was interesting. It was nothing like I had ever imagined. So, coming from just a very, rote, I went to school, I went to, I worked. I never had any type of background in media,
Mm-hmm.
social media, any of that really. And so everything that I thought about being on TV was this extra glamorous situation, like, oh, it's going to be all this glamour. No, it was a lot of waiting and waiting and waiting.
Right.
And now hurry up. And then wait and wait and wait. Now hurry up and then wait and wait and wait. And so the actual experience, I did not like it at all. But the fanfare around it was pretty cool. Like they flew us out to Albuquerque, New Mexico as well. So they
Okay.
came to our house and filmed our short-term rental, our midterm rental. And then they flew us out to Albuquerque to complete the shooting of the show. And it was in kind of a Shark Tank kind of feel. So you pitch your property, that you have that you're renting out. So take a look at it. I won't spoil it for anyone.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. But arriving at the Netflix studio and they're radioing and the talent has arrived. I was like, oh, the talent has arrived.
Yeah.
So it's just really, it's interesting, but it is not the glitz and glam that I thought it was going to be,
Did you have a handler?
I did. Every time I
Did you have
stepped out
one
of
for
the
your
room.
husband too? One for you and one
Yes.
for your husband?
Yeah, it was like, go back to the room.
Right.
Go back to the room. It's like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's a real thing because they need somebody that's going to just connect and be on your hip the whole time and
Yeah.
telling you what to do. And probably people get a little bit nervous. So I
Yeah.
did Undercover Boss. And we were on
Did you really?
I did. You can find it if you go to my LinkedIn, just Jeff Dudan on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And you go to, it's hard to find it online, not behind a paywall. But
Okay.
if you go to my LinkedIn, we have a Vimeo showcase, and it's right there on LinkedIn. So but we shot 16 days,
Oh my God.
over 100 hours of filming to
Yes.
get the 42 minutes. And I've never spent more time in a van. I mean, just sitting in a van and, with the hand, like whoever, and them checking on you and,
Yeah.
what's going on. And it was, but like to see behind the scenes
Yeah.
in how television gets made, unscripted, because yes, it's unscripted, but that doesn't mean it's unmanaged.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, I think Undercover Boss did a really good job of putting even though they had to manufacture the situations where the conversations were had and the really heart-wrenching information was shared, it was really the heart-wrenching information. It was honest conversation. None of that was made up, but there was a way that they had to, that I had to participate to get the guest to bare their soul to me, to tell me about their life and their problems and their struggles and why, and all of that. So, I mean, it was really amazing. It was very thoughtful. And then, of course, it's like a circus tent with Undercover Boss. The whole thing goes away and they announce that it's canceled. And then, there's, I guess the next season, there's another circus tent that gets put up with different things and websites and all of that. And then it's maybe a slightly different ruse and they do it again and they get you, it's like, so, I mean, it was a huge production, and it's so much so that the guests, they really wouldn't think that they were on Undercover Boss, but it was really interesting to see how that world works. And with the cameras and the people and all of the, one of the things they coach you is, now when you get, after, yes, you've been on the road for 16 days, but you're not an actor, and don't use trade talk, because there's all this trade talk, right? That the camera people and the sound people and they're doing, and it's like trade talk. It's whatever it was. I don't even remember what it was now, but they're like, when you get on, don't use trade talk. You'll look like an idiot. So, but it was good, and I'm excited that you had that, and I will definitely check out episode 4 of Buy My House. And if you have 42 minutes of your life that you want to throw away, or you can watch my episode on Undercover Boss. We were on 2000 season 8. It was we played in 2017.
I'm watching it tonight.
Yeah. It's good.
I'm excited.
It's a good episode. It
gosh.
Plays like it's one that gets played. Like, our franchisees were amazing. Good people, value-driven, real problems, and it gets played all over the world because I can see the social media activity that spikes when it's played, like, in Great Britain or Australia or something. You'll just get like little notes here and there. Not so much anymore, honestly. It's been a while, but we do. We were at my daughter's soccer tournament one time, and of course she never told any of her new teammates that it was on, and this was years after it had played and everything. So it's kind of settled down and stuff, and they're sitting there in the hotel or at the Comfort Inn, right? And they're all sitting there waiting to go to dinner, and it's on the television.
What?
Yeah, and she's just like, oh. Like,
right.
Really, that's you on is that you? So so it's a gift that keeps on giving. I know you're proud of it, right? I mean, it's a cool thing.
It's interesting. I cringe a little bit. I think it's cringeworthy. You tell me what you think, but yeah, I mean, for me, it was kind of like a feather in my cap, right? It's like, wow, I actually built an asset that has just, so much, I guess, clout or notoriety behind it that it landed on a TV show. And the reason was because the data miner that we use to mine that information, and the Find Your Property, we use 2 data tools in the Find. One, namely AirDNA, is one that we use. And so they saw our numbers. They reached out to a casting company. And that's how we ended up on the show, because we had such great numbers with that particular rental.
Yeah. Well, it's cringy to watch ourselves, especially if that's not what we do. But I watched it. We had like 250 people at a sports bar. We watched it the first night, and then I might have watched half of it another time, but I hadn't watched it. I mean, I don't want to look. I don't want to see that. Nobody should have to watch that. But well, hey, look, this has been great. There's been so many nuggets here. I know our business owners and prospective business owners, or W-2 people that are out there working and wanting to kind of, transition themselves and shore up their financial futures. Lots of nuggets on here for how they too can start taking steps to improve their futures to real estate. I know it's worked for me. Obviously, it's worked for you. I have 2 questions for you. I've got one curveball that I want to throw at you, and then I've got a fastball that's going to come right down the middle. Are you an Atlanta Braves fan?
No, I'm
Oh,
not a big sports girl. I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm nothing against
Well,
them.
that's a
I'm just not a
baseball
sports
team.
girl.
That's a
Okay.
baseball team.
Yes,
Um,
I think I knew that.
okay.
They're not basketball, right?
No, it's not. All right. Well,
I'm a bookworm. I'm a bookworm.
all right. Well, me too. Okay, here we go. But
Okay.
first of all, please tell everybody where they can find you, whether it's on short-term gems or how you recommend that people reach out to you.
Yeah, so I have a free gift, 75 gems. That's 75, the number 7, the number 5, GEMS.com. That's my list of the top 75 cities with the highest profitability for short-term rentals.
Oh,
If you want to go ahead and grab that, then you'll get access to all of my social media links and all of the things that we're putting out there in the world. So I think that's one of the easiest ways to find me.
75gems.com, or do they go
That's it.
to, just
Seven, yeah, the
75gems.com?
number 7575gems.com.
That's a great
That's it.
domain. That is
Thank you.
nice and short.
Yeah.
That will be worth something one day. It probably already is.
Ooh.
Okay, here's the curveball.
All right.
Gun to your head. Sorry to be so aggressive.
Okay.
You have to start a business in the next 30 days. It cannot be anything that you're doing right now. Where do you see the opportunity in the market? What would that business be?
Ooh. I would say it would be something AI related, AI tech company to perhaps support those 4 pillars that I just spoke about, whether it's to support the market analysis side, how to find the best properties or
Right.
how to fund the properties, work with those lenders and create something around that, leveraging the power of AI, how to fill them up, attract those clients so that we can keep our calendars filled to the brim, or how to furnish those properties. So those 4 pillars, I'm a big believer in them. However, I would do some R&D, research and development, to find out what are the biggest pain points right now, get on some Reddit threads to see what people are really griping about, and creating some AI tech enabled software tool that allows them to just kind of dip their toe and get some type of benefit out of it to compress that time to launch. And yeah, that's what I think I do. Thank you for asking that. What do you think, Jeff?
What do I think? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever asked me. I would probably, if I had to do it right now, I would probably build an education platform for franchisors like myself, single point of truth, where they could come and have a safe environment where they could learn responsible, healthy franchising in a very closed group. They could bring their employees without fear of them getting poached. Everything would be confidential, and there would be no monetization within that group. That's what I would do. I would create the safest education platform for people that want to build great franchise brands.
Well, follow this channel, y'all.
Maybe I will.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
I
I
will.
love it.
All right, right down the middle. Here we come.
All right.
Grip the bat, get it back, hands inside. Here we go. If you had one sentence to make an impact in somebody's life, what would that be? What's your go-to?
Less is more.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
I think we get distracted by so many things. If we can just focus on the one thing, right? I'm quoting someone in our real estate world, the one thing that if we were to lean into it with all of our resources, our time capital, our talent, our resources, that one thing has the potential to make everything else that's pulling at our attention just irrelevant. So less is more. Let's focus on the one thing for the next 90 days, for the next year. And I think we as a community, we get closer to making the biggest impact that we possibly can.
Beautifully said. Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh, thank you so much for being on. I suspect there are many people in your life that are very proud of you.
That is so true. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being on. We have been on Unemployable with Jeff Dudan. I am Jeff Dudan here with Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh. Thanks for listening.